Konosuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World, came out in late 2016. It was classified as a comedy isekai genre, and I vividly remember watching it as it came out. Since its initial release, it's had a season 2 and a movie along with that. Along with me is my good friend Logan, who recently watched the series, and he shares similar interests as me. For me, Konosuba did something special. It was funny. You might be asking, how is this special? How is this something unique? Well, for a comedy-centric anime, Konosuba does humor right. And what I mean by that is Japanese people, more often than not, are not funny. I get it that humor is extremely subjective, but if I were to watch Crazy's Thought Slayers in anime number 2, Funny Moments, I would not smile or chuckle or find that funny in any way, shape, or form. However, for some people this is funny, this is something that they'd like to enjoy, but it's not for me personally. I don't find this humor to be funny, I don't find it to be enjoyable. But Konosuba, on the other hand, tickles my fancies for the humor world. I laugh on every single episode of Konosuba, practically. I don't remember a single episode where I didn't have something to laugh at or something to, smile at. Overall, the humor of Konosuba really is a great plot point for it, and I think that Konosuba does humor well. It does it good.
Konosuba mainly revolves around the four main characters of Kazuma, a likable and comedic soul who gets transported to the world of Konosuba, Aqua, a useless goddess, Megumin, a very powerful archwizard and user of explosion magic, and Darkness, a masochist crusader.
After seeing our main characters, there's only one question that may be asked. Which one of these is the best girl? Obviously Kazuma is off the table since, believe it or not, he's a male. But out of those three, which one piques our interest the most? Which one leads our heart across this woven land? That's the question we're about to get down to. You see, this question that rattles through my head every single time that an anime that the boys have seen comes into play. This one question brings up so many possibilities. And one of the possibilities that we've come full circle back into, similar to the Doki Doki incident, is war. There's a war that must be fought for the best woman in a show.
ここは必要最低限の装備と
For me, this question was obvious. I knew the answer in a heartbeat. But that's mainly because I watched the series back in 2016. But for the boys, they learned about the blood that gets spilled on this battlefield, and they learned it quickly. You see, when boys need to fight for something that is important to them, they become men. And when men fight for something this important, blood gets spilled.
Aqua is the second main character we meet in Konosuba. She's a goddess of water and an archpriest. Her beauty, as described by Kazuma, is beyond the idols shown on television. Aqua's personality is generally high-spirited, cheerful, and carefree, but she usually doesn't think about the consequences of her actions, and she tends to be a bit troublesome, and proves herself to be somewhat of a useless goddess at times. Aqua does prove herself to have use in battle with things such as her healing magic, but she also has a history of bringing a bit of trouble to the group during their adventures.
Olatina, otherwise known as Darkness, is one of the main characters in Konosuba. She's a third person who joins Kazuma's party, and she's a crusader who also happens to be a masochist. Being a crusader gives her lots of endurance and strength, but her sword skills are completely irrelevant. She can't hit anything with her sword, and she ends up being a meat shield in most combat situations. Her masochist tendencies take over her mind a lot as well, and she often gets distracted easily by her masochist urges that she has. Overall, though, she does care for her party deeply, and despite being a masochist, she still has a lot of care for the people around her.
Megumin is the third main character we meet in Konosuba. She's an arch-wizard of the Crimson Demon Clan and user of the powerful explosion magic. She is a confident and boisterous girl and is acknowledged by Kazuma as having the most common sense out of the three girls in the group. While Kazuma thinks of Megumin's explosion magic as somewhat unhelpful at the beginning of the show, he realizes the value and great power of it as the show goes on.
Wiz is one of the important supporting characters in Konosuba. She's a lich, meaning that she's an undead, that owns a magic shop in Axel. She has powerful magic abilities, making her one of the most powerful characters in the entire series, because she's a powerful wizard that knows a lot of spells. But financially, she's not the smartest. Her shop is often going nearly bankrupt because she doesn't make many profitable sales, and on top of that, most of the items in her shop are either cursed or useless. On top of this, Wiz is very clumsy and forgetful, and she's also a pushover from other people. Veneer and Aqua are the two that come to mind when it comes to this pushover attitude. She's constantly getting pushed by Aqua and Veneer to do things that she doesn't want to. However, she is a very innocent person who's very kind and compassionate to others. Now that we've seen the girls and what they have to offer, let's get on to the tier list. Welcome to this video's expose on feet. You see, the world of Konosuba has many feet, and our job is to rank them. That's what this entire segment's about. Starting at the very last of this feet tier list is Darkness. Darkness has a very broad foot. Very big, very masculine almost. Personally, doesn't tickle my fancies. I put it at my very last. In number 2, we have Megumin's feet. Megumin has a very petite foot, much smaller. If I had to compare my foot tier list so far, it would be the Three Little Bears. Darkness's foot is too big. Megumin's is too small. But Aqua's are just right. Aqua's feet are a nice balance between the two. Not too slim, not too big. A perfect foot, if I do say so myself. That has been this video's expose on feet. See you next video. Welcome back from that short expose. Now, straight onto the tier list. As we see here, at the very last, me and Logan put down Aqua. After that, we have Wiz. And third, Darkness, making our grand champion, Megumin. Now, Logan will go into a little more detail on our ranking.
Alright. We have Aqua here in last place because she proves herself to be somewhat of a useless goddess and causes trouble for the team. Next we have Wiz, because she's clumsy and she's not the best with money, not to mention she's an undead. Then we have Darkness. She is caring for the team, however she's a masochist. Then we have Megumin, the best girl.
To show my dedication, I even made a purchase. Now that you know our tier list, you might be asking, why Megumin? Well, walk the path of explosions with us and you will see why. Megumin is a very outspoken person. She's cocky and arrogant, and is also a very smug attitude. Along with this, she has a Chunabu attitude. Chunabu means middle grade syndrome, or being kind of more than you actually are. This really shows in her clothing and how she acts, because she constantly is trying to act like explosion magic is the god tier magic that it truly is. However, this comes across as kind of psychopathic. She's called the psycho one in town because of how she acts. She has a lust for more explosion magic, and she keeps striving to be better and better. Overall, though, this makes her a more goal-driven character than the rest, because she constantly wants to be the best explosion magic caster, and she constantly drives to be that. This is also shown when she uses her explosion magic every single day. She claims that she'll die without it, but in reality, she just wants to keep casting explosion magic, and that's just an excuse for her to vent her true desires.
All right, at the beginning of the show, the group of adventurers think of Megumin's explosion magic as somewhat unhelpful at times, being that she can only use it once per day. It's the only kind of magic she used, and there didn't seem to be a lot of situations where a massive explosion would get the job done. However, as the show went on, as Megumin increased her magic capabilities and also got to prove herself in more situations where explosion magic would be more helpful, things or the value of her magic started to become more apparent. At the end of the movie, Megumin wants to use some of the points she has to learn different advanced magic rather than just explosion magic, so that way she can try and be more helpful to the adventure team. However, as she cannot bring herself to turn away from explosion magic, she has Kazuma apply the points to new magic on her adventurer's card. However, Kazuma decides to put all those points further into explosion magic, because by this point he realizes the immense power and value of having an archwizard who can do such powerful damage in one strike on the team.
Compared to the other members of the party, Megumin's intelligence is the highest out of all of them. She's very clever in most situations, and she's very helpful for determining what the best solution to problems is. This means she's a very valuable team member, along with her powerful explosion magic. Megumin is the youngest of the party, but she has the most stylish apparel out of all of the party. I'd say that her character design is one of the most interesting in the entirety of Kono Suba. She has kind of a Chunabu fashion sense, and she really shows it in what she wears. She wears a cloak, fingerless gloves, wrappings around her right leg, and a nice wizard hat. On top of that, she has an eye patch which she claims seals her immense power, but she doesn't need the eye patch in reality. She's just trying to show off and look stylish. Overall, I'd say that Megumin's appearance really is an interesting character design and really expresses the character in a helpful manner. While Megumin does have a passion for explosion magic that exceeds almost all things, she also has a very immature attitude, which is one of her biggest downsides. She constantly is acting childish and almost bratty, but this is offsetted by her boisterous and eccentric style that really has a theatric almost tone to it. Now, let's compare her personality traits to the others. Her downside of being immature stacks up way better than the others' downsides. For instance, being useless and stupid like Aqua. Being an insane masochist to the point where they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals, like Darkness. And being clumsy and bad with money, like Wiz. Along with this, she's also confident and very passionate about things she enjoys. This overall creates a very enjoyable character trait that really works well with each other. Her immature nature almost complements the theatric and confident attitude that she has. Despite all the upsides of Megumin, she has one massive downside. One downside so great that it made me consider even making this video. You see, Megumin is 14 years old.
a serialized store right there.
Oh, nigga!
So what's the plan here tonight?
Listen, seriously, I know it sounds bad, but we just want to play some Smash Brothers. That's what we meant by Smash, I swear!
You do realize she's a 14-year-old girl.
Hold it!
I think we didn't know she was 14. She told us she was 18.
You're gonna go to jail for a long time for this, bud.
Listen. Okay, listen. Closely, please. First of all, okay, number one. It's a fantasy world. Fantasy world. I mean, fantasy worlds, I mean, think of medieval times. I mean, if you were like 10, you were pretty much an adult. I mean, there's no age consent in fantasy world, you know? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're 2, you're pretty much right for the picking.
It's a fantasy girl from a fantasy world. We're not wrong here.
Yeah, and on top of that, the main character of the show, he's from Japan. Age consent in Japan, 13. So with this, I mean, we're really not bad guys. We're good-hearted, you know.
You are sick.
Listen to me. She's 14, right? I didn't want to pull up my trump card here, but she's 14. Okay. I have something to tell you, Mr. Ben Hansen. +4, baby! 18 big ones. That's legal.